folks. So when you borrow a dollar, this dollar comes into existence in the act of you borrowing it on balance sheets. Since you've borrowed that dollar with interest, you have to pay it back plus interest. So you either earn more year over year or you borrow another dollar into existence. And incomes for the middle class have been stagnant since 1979. In 1819, people started to notice that banks were adopting a common practice of issuing IOUs and attempting in other ways to cover that they were unable to honor withdrawals. So immediately, a third of America's wealth vanished. Real estate and land prices plummeted. It was difficult to buy or sell anything. No one would risk issuing a loan. And this lasted until the next decade. This was in a time where there was not really a credit structure and there really was an honest underlying economy to rely on. The national debt as of today is $19.4 trillion. There are only $1.2 trillion, notes and coins, in the world, and an estimated 50 to 70% of that is overseas. So there is really only an estimated $250 billion in circulations in the United States. And just for scale, that's only 1.29% of the national debt. A bank run may seem far-fetched, but it has happened many times throughout history. And it seems that other banks are preparing for this prospect. A Swiss pension fund manager tried to withdraw a large amount of cash from a bank. The bank refused, and then the government ended up backing the bank. The Swiss government admitted that it had been recommending that banks with cash demands act restrictively. In America, Public Law 111147 makes it harder to take money out of the United States. Banks, including JP Morgan, aren't allowing people to store cash in safety deposit boxes any longer. No cash payments are allowed at Chase Bank on various loans. States are moving to restrict people from accessing their cash. Louisiana made it illegal to buy precious metals with cash. People have a vested interest in believing that good things will keep coming. I have tried to have the conversation about protecting yourself against economic collapse with more people than I can count, and I am routinely ridiculed for my paranoia and my doom and gloom attitude. But baby boomers are relentlessly optimistic because they have never experienced any serious financial woes. So they're very unreceptive to me. So I'm hoping to kind of appeal to the millennials. But I really do believe this is coming, and I will tell you how I am preparing myself. I think the best way to hedge against a dollar collapse is first to pay off your debt. And I've read some conflicting things about this because there might be debt inflation. So it's up in the air on whether or not it's worth it to pay it off. But since creditors may come after you, I normally recommend to people that the first thing they do is pay off their debt. Secondly, sell your real property if you live in a metropolitan area or if your property does not have land. If you have property that cannot be repossessed, you've paid it off in full, and it has practical value, you could farm there, then you're in really good shape. Next, I would get out of the stock market entirely. See if you can self-direct your 401k. If you cannot, which I cannot, it's worth considering liquidating it. You will lose between 20 and 30%. But if there's a 70% stock market crash and you have turned that cash into silver or gold, you're going to be very, very happy that you did. They've kept their value for centuries. I also have been talking to a lot of people about cryptocurrency lately, which I think may emerge as a serious contender for a new currency. So these markets are extremely volatile, and there's always the possibility that these currencies could just become valueless one day, or if there's a hack or something like that. But it may be an avenue for those with a high risk tolerance to get rich. After all, we have to keep in mind, some people became millionaires in the Great Depression. We can't necessarily stop what's coming, but we can prepare, we can ride the wave, and we can profit from our own foresight. And of course, I hope it doesn't come to this, but it's always a good idea to have about 6 months of food supply and some practical skills under your belt. I hope that I'm wrong about this. It's also possible that because of our currency's position in the global market, other solutions arise that didn't really occur to us because we're kind of in an unprecedented situation. A new technology could emerge that changes humanity. I suppose a ton of things could happen that would prevent this. I just personally don't have any faith in the federal government's ability to regain control of our economy when the real culprit is the foundational concept that we have adopted that has just rotted our economy to the core. It is complete hubris to think that because of our wealth, we are unsusceptible to financial collapse. There were food riots and deaths from malnutrition during the Great Depression, and people were considerably better equipped to deal with hardship then, because most of them had practical skills. Can you imagine all these beta millennial males and feminists trying to survive? I think as a generation, especially compared to previous generations, We lack basic survival skills because we have largely been removed from that necessity our entire lives. Our economic system is unsustainable. Moral standards have eroded in society. The nuclear family is dying. We have an estimated 25 million illegal immigrants. There are more than 94 million people out of the labor force. We are dealing with an epic existential threat, which is Islam. We're also entering an era of urban warfare that we are not sufficiently adapted to. We have tough times ahead. And again, I hope I am wrong about this, but I really do think the average person has an ominous feeling and they don't know why. I'm definitely bracing for impact. I think you should be as well. So I will close with this. In 1927, John Maynard Keynes, whose economic philosophy has informed our policies, foreign and domestic, for decades, said, "We will not have any more crashes in our time."